Welcome, leaders and visionaries, to the Level Up Leader podcast. I'm Michael King, your host, an executive coach and founder of Teams.coach, here to explore the stories and insights from the world's most influential leaders. Today, we're joined by Jon Titus, Senior Organization Development Consultant at Boys Town and a beacon of leadership development. Jon's journey and his work in developing leaders is truly inspiring. Jon, it's an honor to have you with us today.
Pleased to be with you, Michael.
Fantastic. So we're here in Omaha. A couple weeks ago, we reached out via LinkedIn and we started to just kind of synergize over some liked connections and whatnot. And your story really inspired me. Your work of what you're doing here at Boys Town. So it's so honored to have you here at the Level Up Leader podcast.
Yeah, pleased to be here. Well, it's easy to be inspired working at Boys Town, so I'm very fortunate to be here.
Well, if it's okay, we'll dive right in, and then we'll dissect some of your story as we go. But you've played a pivotal role in launching Elevate. It's Boys Town's first organization-wide leadership development program.
Right.
What inspired you to focus on developing other leaders, and how has that journey been for you?
Well, part of what made me the right person for this role was all the way back to when I got my MBA. So I got my Master's of Business Administration at the University of Iowa in 2008. And of course, that type of education is structured. It's very much about process, management rather than leadership. So coming out of that experience, I began to learn in the real world that leadership is every bit, if not more important, as is management. So over the last couple of decades, I've been really learning leadership is what drives a lot of the results and outcomes that we're looking for at our institutions, our organizations. And I just found that personally, for me, there's no higher calling than leaders developing other leaders. So that's why I'm on this path now, is to really help this organization get a consistent and a real feel for the culture of leadership at Boys Town.
Man, you're hitting on something that's pretty profound, and it might sound simple to you because you and I are in the leadership seats, but there's a vast difference between management and leadership.
Yeah.
How do you see that?
Well, you can have the extremes to really define it. So if you really want to, kind of slant things to make it a dichotomy, it's very easy to say something like management is tasks and leadership is strategy, or management is the here and now and leadership is off into the future, or all of these different, real clear distinctions between the two. But the truth is you have to have both, and there has to be a balance, right? You have to have the day-to-day plans and the long-time vision for the organization as well. So it just can't be one or the other, and it can't be off balance too far in one direction or the other. So people have to learn the skills for both. And a lot of us, when we're coming up in our youth, we don't really hear a lot about what it can be to be a leader. We just have these archetypes of the president, right? Or the leader of the church, or and what is that? That's one individual, but there's leaders, plural, throughout an organization. And what we really come to find out is it doesn't take a title. It doesn't take authority necessarily. You can be a leader from any seat in the organization. You can lead performance. You can lead, the investigation. You can lead all kinds of things. And so what I want people to do is get curious about what are leadership skills? How do I learn leadership? And I love teaching leadership. As you can tell, I get really passionate about it right away. And that's just the thing that fills my bucket, Michael.
Yeah, I love that. We talk about leadership and kind of breaking it down into a couple different, I guess, styles. But I think one of the things that we found working with leaders is that there's just a very sometimes it's vague and sometimes it's ethereal in its approach of how we expect others to behave when we put leader titles on people. And sometimes that can lead us to disappointment, you know. So one of the things that we talk about a lot is the difference between framework and blueprint leaders. Framework meaning it's more results oriented, of like saying, hey, this is the goal. I don't really care how you get me there, just get me there. And you can trust that the person, as long as within the construct of culture, value systems, etc., that if you have those right people in the right seats, like you can actually move things forward pretty fast. Blueprint is a little bit different. I think that sometimes that's a little bit more on the management side of things. It's more of a tactic or a task type role. But I think you're right. You know, with the archetypes that we grow up at, and even just watching, you know, the State of the Union address last night, we get these ideas of what leaders could be, but we don't necessarily know how to grow into being a leader. So I think that's brilliant, what the work that you're
I,
doing.
I love teachers, and I had some of the best teachers, honestly, in the entire world. I think I was maybe unfairly blessed with. No, I think all teachers probably, you've had some in your life too, right? It wasn't just me. But I think there are certain things that we, as learners at a young age, misconstrue, or the teachers have a certain agenda, but there could have been all kinds of other things that were taught alongside that as well. And the one that I think of with this is, you know, when we teach about, you know, famous leaders in schools, or you know, even in just regular curriculums throughout any kind of learning environment, even in I was teaching Sunday school, for example. Like when I was in high school, I was a Sunday school teacher, and we taught about, you know, famous leaders in the Bible. And but we teach it from this perspective of, again, kind of that one individual. And it's, as a young kid, you're sitting there going, well, I can never become that, or I have a 1 in a million chance of becoming that. And that's not how we want to portray the potential that everyone has in them to be a leader. So a little bit of what I do is the unteaching, so to speak, right? To kind of, let's level set. Let's get back to reality. And all of you can be leaders in your own way, in your own right. And what is your passion? What do you want to make better in this world? What do you want to leave your mark by doing? So that's the exciting thing about the leadership lessons that I get to deliver, is anyone can latch on to something and realize, oh, so what I already love can be where I pour my leadership skills into and make an impact.
I love that. Now, how we got connected was because we have some development cohorts through our company, through teams.coach. We have a group called the Catalyst Group, which we partner with daring dreamers and entrepreneurs that have maybe these crazy ideas, not necessarily side hustles, but something that they feel like, hey, you know what? I have a dream, I have a vision as far as like what I can do to maybe launch something new, but I don't necessarily know where to start. And I know that I have to up my leadership game. So we it's probably one of my favorite things that we get to do is developing the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs, right? And one of our Catalyst Group members was actually an employee of Boys Town, still is actually, and she just got on fire for like leadership development. Like she just got super hungry, and then so she said, "You got to get connected with Jon." Now, when you and I connected for coffee in a very, very crowded coffee shop in Omaha, Nebraska, you and I ended up standing like in a corner, you know, because it was packed.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, so good. But you started to tell me about what you do with your development groups and how you make leadership available kind of for everybody who's willing, you know, type of thing. So can you share a little bit about that and how you started developing your guys' cohort?
Yeah. Well, we started with the cohort program at the top, which is Elevate. That in and of itself is about a 5-month longitudinal program where we get about 20 to 25 participants together in the classroom for 2 days at a time, 4 different sessions. So total days of classroom time and about 5 weeks between sessions. And between sessions, they do things like 360 assessment. They do some small group assignments, that kind of pre-work for the next class. They get executive coaching calls, and then that becomes only about 50 people a year because there's 2 cohorts during the year. We might be able to run consecutive cohorts at some point, but right now it's just one at a time. But besides that, we have leadership experience, which is kind of the more general, go and grab curriculum that pertains to your needs, what's relevant to you. So we have categories that people can choose from. That's things like videos and blog posts and articles to read, and those resources may be things like difficult conversations, right? That's one that comes up a lot. Things like building trust or team building. So they're categorized where you can go in and search, and we've got dozens of titles already available there, and we continue to put new content in every quarter. And then we have what we're developing right now, which should be available soon for the rest of the organization, is so you're thinking about becoming a leader, and that we're just going to be calling Called to Grow. And that's really about like exploring what leadership is about, whether or not that's for you. And again, kind of defining the fact that it doesn't have to necessarily be a promotion or a title or a role. So, that's really something where, especially people who have never really taken a deep dive into a leadership position, might explore with their supervisor, their current mentor, thinking about the future of their career with Boys Town.
I love it. I love it. Now we always ask this of everybody that we have on the podcast, but we talk about the level up leader tip, and for you, it's emphasizing the importance of knowing yourself and effectively investing in others. But for you, can you share how your experiences, maybe perhaps the Peace Corps service in Bolivia, and how that informed your belief?
Sure. So right after my undergraduate years, I went and spent 2 years in Bolivia as a Peace Corps volunteer. And I was very young, very green, very inexperienced. And I think a lot of what I learned there is you operate most solidly on your values. So the things that are most important to you is where you have your core, where you lead from best. And you have to have those things figured out before you get into a situation. If you're already in the situation, it's too late, right? So exploring what's really meaningful to you, what really drives you, where your strengths lie, those types of things are your values. And exploring that is one of the most incredible, powerful things you can do. And you should do it regularly. Not that your values are going to change, but that you have a clear understanding, and that the definition may adapt and get more clear throughout your life, throughout your career. I think, in the Peace Corps, what I relied most on was just my curiosity, my willingness to learn, my willingness to be vulnerable, and to show others that I was there for them. So, when I say developing others, I think that really was my shining light, that people really gained trust in me. I'm this stranger from the United States, right, who barely speaks the language well. I spoke it well enough, I suppose. But, I would assume that there'd be a lot of skepticism, like, oh, great, here comes another guy who thinks he knows everything, another guy who's going to come in and tell us what to do because he thinks he knows better than us. But that's the opposite of where I approached every situation. And so because I was open, and because I asked them about their needs, because I was really curious to know what was important to them, I was accepted very quickly. And they were just the most wonderful community. The village that I lived in, I just became one of them. And I stuck out like a sore thumb, but I was one of the villagers in Muyupampa, Bolivia for 2 years.
Oh, that is incredible. And you nailed a couple things right on the head. Is that so often, especially as you move on in your life, sometimes your value systems change a little bit, and it's easy for you to be able to get off kilter and not lead from an organic place of passion. And so I love that you had that experience. with the Peace Corps, but I also love the fact that you're able to continually be in that space of exploring the thing that you're most passionate about and leading from that. So, congratulations. That's a pretty amazing experience. Um, so as I'm gonna shift gears really quick here. Is that okay?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. So we play this game called This or That. I want people to know a little bit more about you than just the cool things we do in leadership. So, early bird or night owl?
I'm an early bird. I'm a morning person all the way.
How early?
Oh, I can get up at 5. I
Okay.
typically get up around 5:30, but if I want to do a little writing or do a little reflection, definitely love being the first one up and having that silence in the house.
All right. Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Why?
Because he's more real to me. He's an earthling.
He's an earthling. Okay. That's fair. I had this conversation the other day with one of my friends and we were talking and I think that there's an allure to like so if we think about it, he's got better villains. Like his villains are pretty stacked. He's got the gadgets, and he's got the cool backstory, like the humanity side of like what brings him in. So
Yeah.
I am excited though. I saw the other day James Gunn posted that they're now filming the new Superman movie, and uh, and so I'm excited to see what they come up with that as well. So all right, sorry, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay, very
Yep.
good. Books or
Bolivia
podcasts?
has some of the best coffee, by the way.
Oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, it's
Books
not
or
all just
podcast?
cafe,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Books, you can tell over my shoulder here. I'm a book guy.
What is your favorite book?
I can't pick a favorite, honestly. When it comes to leadership, some of the best, I think, Remarkable Leadership. Kevin Eikenberry is one of my favorite authors. Kouzes and Posner, Leadership Challenge. There's so many good ones. What I'm reading right now is Atomic Habits. I'm really into
Oh yeah,
behavioral change and thinking about how to help others have their best behavior show up, especially in the workplace as well.
yeah. All right, fantastic. Yeah, James Clear, Atomic Habits, love it. Um, Strategic planning or spontaneous decision making?
Well, I am pretty spontaneous. I love ideas. I'm an idea guy. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, as well. But the better results come from strategic planning. Absolutely.
Are you do you know what Enneagram type you are?
Oh my goodness. I just did that for Leadership Omaha and now I can't remember. I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
We'll have to sidebar on that whole conversation. I'll get you some resources on that. But next week I'm actually speaking in at Omaha Leaders Luncheon, and we'll be kind of diving into to some of those makeups with the Enneagram as well. So that's pretty fun. Um, so moving back in the conversation, you mentioned about passion for discussing ideas and fostering creativity. Um, how do you nurture this creativity within your team, and what role does it play in organizational development?
So I don't know if you're going to like this answer or not, but I actually have been thinking a lot about creativity. And so this is a bit meta. Um, I really just like telling people that they, at some point, have started telling themselves that they're not creative and helping them realize and have this awareness of this it's kind of an age thing and it's been researched quite a bit and people start telling themselves that they're less creative than they were when they were young and it's not true. It's just a societal pressure or it's a work beating you down symptom or something where a lot of people just get to a certain age and they believe that they're not creative,
Mm,
but they're getting in their own heads, they're getting in their own ways. So I do all kinds of activities in the classroom that are a little bit childish, I suppose, a little bit more elementary and fun, but they always have a really good point, and there's a really good metaphor for leadership built into each one. And we debrief the activities with a lot of like, how does this apply to your work? how is this relevant to your leadership? And so I think when we do some of these things, like for example, we build paper airplanes at one point in my leadership program, and people give me the quizzical side eye. This is really worth my time. We're really going to build paper airplanes. Yes, we really are. And you know what? By the end of the activity, I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, I'm sorry if I came across as a little bit skeptical earlier, or I'm sorry if I gave you a look or I gave you some defensiveness. This was great. This was just what I needed. This was, it helped me break down some of my perceived, walls that were up. So creativity is the lifeblood of any organization, of any team. You have to keep evolving and changing and pushing, to better yourself and to better your team. So the only way you do that is with some new ideas, some thinking outside the box, right? We say that a lot, but that's true. It's getting a little bit outside of your comfort zone into areas that are unexplored perhaps or underutilized.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, especially in the corporate environments. You find yourself at times getting the real serious, person that shows up for the leadership group, and it's not necessarily, you have to kind of like reshift and refocus the motivation of why people are there in the first place.
Right.
It's not necessarily about what you want, but it's more about what you can be, what could you be, what can you grow into, and so I think it's really great that you use creativity, humor, and things to be able just to be able to crack the egg a bit, get
You
people.
know, I think there's a bit of a swing, it's almost whiplash sometimes because leaders who are we start at the top of their organization with our leadership program. Leaders who have gotten to that position in their lives are experienced. They've experienced success. They're very confident most times. They're very secure in who they are. And so to tell them to maybe break that apart a little bit feels very like nonsensical to them, right?
Yeah.
It's hold on. So you're saying everything that got me this far may also hinder me from getting farther? Yeah, I am saying that in a way, right? So you have to keep growing. We're never done learning if we're going to be the most successful that we can be. There's still potential to be reached, or there's still ways that you can then share, right? To be generous with what you've learned and pass that on to the next generation. So that requires new skills as well. And that's going to take a new outlook, a new perspective.
I love it. I love it. I got one more question for you. Is that cool?
Yeah, you bet.
So I want to touch on just the Successful Future program at Boys Town. This sounds like a phenomenal initiative. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and how our listeners can support this cause?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I should say, a lot of people don't know Boys Town has grown beyond the, family homes of yesteryear, which were, Father Flanagan was our founder, and he took youth in and gave them a family and helped us, save a lot of kids who didn't have a whole lot of, you know, potential, I suppose. You can't call it that. Just anyway, beyond the youth care that we have the healthcare aspect. We have a hospital. We have a lot of clinics for pediatrics, and we have the best neurosurgery for youth in the area. Level 4 neurosurgeon. We have schools. We have a lot that we're doing in education and helping teachers manage their classrooms and manage behavior and such. So anyway, there's a lot more to Boys Town than you might know. But when it comes to the youth care services, we've realized in the last decade, just like when people age out of foster care, we have kids who are, becoming adults, going off to college or having their first career move, getting their first internship, their first job, who need additional support. I don't know about you. My kids, when they turn 18, they're not fully baked. They're not completely ready to adult. So we know that our youth here, when they're graduating from our high school, for example, need a lot of extra support. So we've created a program called Successful Futures. Starting at the beginning of their senior year, they enroll in the Successful Futures program. Everybody, all of our students, and by the end of their senior year, they're ready to go to college with scholarships, for example, or start apartment living. And we even have apartment living on campus where, for example, there are apartments that they pay a monthly rent, and then when they're ready to move off campus, everything that they've paid into their bank for their apartment gets returned back to them 100%. So they're ready now to put down their first and second month's rent, or put down their damage deposit. They're ready to put a down payment on a car, perhaps. Those types of things. They're ready for financially, getting a stable start to off-campus life. So all kinds of really cool things go into developing skills, whether it's financial, whether it's car insurance and maintaining your vehicle, whether it's just the social aspects and the peer pressures that exist outside of the walls here.
Man, that's such a great resource, and I mean that's not just valuable just for the students at Boys Town, but man, that's something that's valuable for almost for everybody. So
yeah,
man, that's incredible. So this has been a great conversation, and I've had a lot of fun with you. So thanks for all you do. Thanks for your investment in leaders, creating impactful programs at Boys Town. I love it. So thanks for sharing your insights and stories with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Michael.
Now, to our listeners, thank you for joining us in the Level Up Leader podcast. Remember, leadership is about clarity, simplicity, and always striving to elevate those around us. If Jon's message resonated with you, consider supporting the Successful Futures program at Boys Town. Every contribution makes a difference in shaping the leaders of tomorrow. Now, I'm Michael King. Remember to stay curious, be clear, and never stop leading. Join us next time as we continue to uncover the stories of leaders who dare to make a difference. Until then, keep leveling up. Jon, any final words for our audience?
I'll just reiterate my passion, my motto. The highest calling of any leader is to develop other leaders. Thanks, Michael.